starting a realistic career mode with Chelsea in FC25 can feel overwhelming given the club's erratic transfer strategy over recent seasons. However, fresh reports suggest that the club are preparing for yet another major summer window, this time with more focus and intent. Up to 7 first-team players are reportedly set to leave, as the club looks to trim the squad and bring in high-quality additions to strengthen Enzo Maresca's side ahead of next season. Whether the career mode is started using the life points feature or from the beginning of the campaign, the same principles and ideas will apply. With a clear out in the cards and a more strategic approach in the works, this is how you can start a realistic Chelsea career mode in FC25 and help shape the Blues into a side capable of challenging at the top once again. To kick off the video, I will give you a brief breakdown of the Chelsea tactics that Enzo Maresca and Chelsea have used this season in real life. So when starting a realistic career mode for any team, it's always important to understand how they function on the pitch, as this can affect transfer decisions as well as tactical tweaks going forward. I have already gone and made Enzo Maresca's tactics for FC25, both the 4-2-3-1 as well as the 3-4-2-1. Now he's used both of these tactics fluidly throughout the course of the season, sometimes starting in the 3-4-2-1 structure, other times playing in a 4-2-3-1. And both of these setups emphasize control, short passing, and build up through the middle of the pitch, which are key hallmarks to Enzo Maresca's philosophy. And again, if you are looking to replicate the realistic Enzo Maresca tactics for FC25, I will link the video at the end of this one for you to go ahead and incorporate into your career mode. Moving on to the first team Chelsea squad, and I must say it is absolutely massive, with 45 players being on the first team books. Now, at the beginning of the season, Maresca came out and stated that he would only be using 25 key individuals for the current campaign, and that's exactly what he's done, which has forced certain players to either leave on loan or be shipped out on permanent transfer deals. Now, before I get on any further into this video, I would just like to state that I'm not a Chelsea fan, I'm a Manchester United fan, but I have done some extensive research in preparation for making this video. Now, of course, I'm not perfect, I can get some things wrong, so if I have, let me know down below in the comment section and we can have a friendly conversation, or maybe just give me your opinions down below. So we will start off with the 7 goalkeepers on the first team books. Now that's only in FIFA or FC. I'm pretty sure in real life they've got 9 keepers on the books, which is wild. But so far they've got Bettinelli, Kepa, Sanchez, Jorgensen, Bergstrom, who's currently set to expire soon, Petrovic, and Penders. Now Penders, I think, has got a very good long-term future at the club. Petrovic, on the other hand, I'm not too sure. Last season he was incredible under Pochettino and he played very well, and it was quite a shock to a lot of Chelsea fans when the club stated that he was going to be leaving either out on loan or a permanent move. And this season in France, for Strasbourg, the sister club to Chelsea, he's done very, very well. In fact, a lot of people think he's done even better than the #1 goalkeeper, Robert Sanchez, which is absolutely wild. Could he come back? Could he potentially just come back and get sold, make a bit of money from him? That's also a possibility, especially with players like Philip Jorgensen also coming in this past summer window. He hasn't really gotten the opportunity. He hasn't gotten that run of games that you would require for a goalkeeper to come in and settle into that position and make it his own. He's largely been rotated with Sanchez, who's not been very good in the last 2 years that he's been at Chelsea. So is Jorgensen the future #1, and will Sanchez be sold? I'm not exactly sure. The club have consistently looked to back Sanchez, although they've also been able to sell players on that a lot of people have suspected that they would keep in the past, at least. So I think that maybe Sanchez might be out the door. There were reports a few weeks ago stating that if he's not the first team goalkeeper, if he's not the #1 choice, he will be leaving, and a lot of Chelsea fans have said, well, damn, don't let the door hit you on the way out, which is quite funny. But I think that parting ways with Sanchez might be the best move going forward, and maybe looking to get rid of 1 or 2 of these other keepers. Maybe a Bergstrom, you just let him leave on loan, or sorry, you just let him leave on a free, and possibly Petrovic, you sell him, and also Kepa. I think Kepa's loan at Bournemouth might be turned into a permanent move, and Chelsea might look to recoup some money. They'll never get back the 80 million that they paid for him all those years ago from Athletic Bilbao, but they could get about 10 to 15 million, and I think it's a smart bit of business. Kepa's not happy at Chelsea. He's quite happy at Bournemouth, maybe looking to sell him to a club in Spain, possibly. That's also another move that you could make. As for Bettinelli, I would keep him as that 3rd choice goalkeeper. I think that is exactly what the club are going to be doing going forward, but having a goalkeeper rotation of Bettinelli, Philip Jorgensen, possibly Petrovic, or maybe another player for next season, maybe another goalkeeper, maybe an actual first team goalkeeper, maybe an actual #1, that could be on the cards for Chelsea. Onto the left backs, and And again, it's quite a bloated position in the team, but only one left back is at the club, currently playing in Enzo Maresca's system, and that is Cucurella. Ben Chilwell out on loan at Crystal Palace. Wiley out on loan at Watford. Humphreys out on loan at Burnley. Vega, who was literally just brought in this past summer, it's like 6 months ago at this point, he's out on loan at Juventus. I do, however, think that a player like Humphreys, player like Vega are perfect for that left back role. That's fullback that doesn't always look to bomb on, but they can do so if the opportunities arise in that natural balanced fullback position for FC25. Also allowing them to create that lopsided back three that would be important in the build-up phases. So Vega, Humphreys, Wiley are also naturally left-footed centre backs, but they can also play out wide. So they might have a future in the team. Possibly one of them or two of them might get sold, but I definitely think Ben Chilwell doesn't have a role going forward with this Chelsea side, especially under Enzo Maresca. I don't think he fits the role or the mold of the left back that Maresca requires. He can't really invert into the midfield. He's more of a touchline fullback looking to overlap and create crossing opportunities. Whereas I do think that the Italian manager expects a bit more technical ability from his fullback, especially on that side of the pitch. Now, of course, I have also seen Cucurella looking to overlap Sancho or overlap Neto, whoever's been played in that left-hand side area, and also whip in crosses. But what I'm saying is Cucurella's also inverted. Cucurella's also stayed back and created that back three structure, along with Reece James on the right-hand side at times. But Cucurella's more versatile. Cucurella has more technical ability than Ben Chilwell. So before anybody thinks I don't know ball, I do, kind of, maybe, but I'm just stating that a player like a Ben Chilwell doesn't really fit the mold that Maresca would want or require. So Chelsea's central defenders are quite interesting. They've got Disasi, who's out on loan at Aston Villa, Chalobah, who was out on loan at Crystal Palace. He was told he was surplus to requirements, and then they had to bring him back because they thought that he was actually better than some of the options that they had in their squad. Badashile, Fofana, Colwell. This new kid, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but I know he was brought in from Argentina. He's got a bright future, but I think that he will be going out on loan next season, possibly to Strasbourg, possibly to another club, maybe in Germany, just to try and develop and get first team minutes, because I don't think that he will be getting minutes of a player like Colwell or Fofana, or not Badashile, because he's probably also going to be sold, and again, Chelsea will try and recoup some money and reinvest it into a new centre-back, possibly a former Chelsea youth prospect, which we will talk about soon enough. And the same can also be said for Disasi. Maybe it won't be at Aston Villa, but I think that he will be sold in the summer along with, Badashile. And then there's Chalobah. Now, Chalobah was a player that Chelsea were intent on selling, and that was not because of Chalobah not being good enough, even though Maresca came out and said he's not good enough, he's not a good ball-playing centre-back. The question is then, why did you bring him back? Because he is good enough. The problem with Trevor Chalobah is, it's not even a problem. He's a youth prospect. So therefore, you can sell him and have a lot of money in the little FFP column in the green area to state that, you sold a youth prospect. It's 100% profit, and all that profit and sustainability does come into effect. So depending on how Chelsea's summer spendings and sales go, if it's bad, if they don't sell well, you might find a player like Trevor Chalobah on the chopping block yet again, 2 summers in a row, looking to be pushed out the door, which isn't great. But I mean, at the same time, I think Chelsea could definitely bring in better options for that central defender role. For the right side of the defense, there's 4 options to possibly choose from: a Chimpong, James, Gusto, and Elfie Gilchrist. Now, Gilchrist, I think, will also be sold. Again, going into that little green column for FFP and all that good stuff. He is a youth prospect, and I just don't see him having a carved out role or future in this team going forward. James and Gusto, James suffers with the injury, so having a good quality backup like Gusto does help, although a lot of people have rated Joshua Chimpong higher than potentially Malo Gusto. And again, it does go back to, if Chelsea sell well, there won't be sort of issues with keeping players like a Chalobah or possibly a Gusto. Gusto hasn't really had the amazing season that he had 2 years ago, where he was tearing it up, and a lot of Chelsea fans weren't really missing Reece James down that right-hand side. But recently, in this newer Maresca system, where he's forced to play as an inverted fullback, not really getting forward as much and using his key qualities and skills, you've really seen him struggle, because I don't think he can fulfill that central role very well, and possibly because of the fit and the style of play that Maresca wants, he might be also sold in the summer. But I do think that Chelsea will make a decent amount of money back on him, so I don't think it's a complete loss if they do lose him, but I don't think he really fits the quality style that the manager wants. Further forward now into the midfield, and this has been an area where Chelsea have desperately lacked bodies. They've used Caicedo and Enzo and Cole Palmer religiously this season. They've consistently used them because because players like Ugochukwu have been loaned out to Southampton, and I do rate Ugochukwu very highly, so I don't think that he would be sold in the summer. I really don't think that. I think he might have a role going forward. And then there's also Lavia, former Southampton player. He's only played, I think, I saw the stat the other day, it was like 14 games in the last 2 years, and he hasn't completed 90 minutes once, and that's because he struggled with injuries. Now, I'm not saying he needs to go, he needs to be sold, but that is something that Chelsea may have to consider later on down the line, especially if he's still struggling for fitness and he can't really get up to the qualities and the standards that would require him to play 90 minutes. But for the time being, maybe adding another player to this position that can successfully back up a Caicedo, that might be the best option. Of course, there's also Enzo Fernandez that does play in that double pivots, the left of the double pivots, that box-to-box type role, the Romeo Lavia type role, or potentially the Caicedo type role. But again, bringing in another player, or possibly just bringing back another player, there is the likes of Andre Santos from Strasbourg that has done very, very well in France. And I think that he might have a future. I think he might have a bright future at Chelsea, being a backup, or maybe even taking that starting position away from a player like an Enzo Fernandez. That could be a great bit of business, because I'm not sure exactly how much Chelsea paid for him, but he could save them a lot of money in the upcoming transfer window. And I mean, I've already mentioned Enzo Fernandez playing in that double pivot role. He can also play slightly further forward, especially if a player like Cole Palmer is not fit and firing and ready to play. So Fernandez can also play slightly higher up if needed or required, along with Keenan Dewsbury Hall, who I don't think will be sold, although his minutes this season have been very sporadic, but I think he could be a very good rotational player for the side. For Matisse Mugu, who was brought in the January window, there are reports stating that he's only there to train. I mean, Maresca said he's only there to train this season for the rest of the season, and then he will be successfully loaned out either to Strasbourg or to another club, possibly in France, just for his development to take shape and have him grow and successfully possibly be another Andre Santos, who was brought in very raw talent, but a very explosive talent, but he needed more minutes. And we've seen this season at Strasbourg that Santos has done very, very well for the club. So another player with a long-term future in mind could be Matisse Mugu for the team. Now, I've just realized that it should be 46 players in the first team squad, because Mudryk is still a feature to the team, although he's not in FC25. But for the left midfield position, you've got Tyreek George and Jadon Sancho. Now, Tyreek George, he could be loaned out. He could still be a feature to the team next season. He's done very well whenever he's played. I've only heard good things from Chelsea fans about the youth prospects. But for Jadon Sancho, on loan from Manchester United with an obligation to buy of 25 million, but we all know Chelsea and their nifty owners are very clever with finding loopholes, and they inserted a 5 million cancellation fee in an obligation to buy, which is absolutely outrageous. Now, whether Sancho stays or goes literally is on whether Chelsea make Champions League football or not. If they don't make it, I think Chelsea pay the fine of 5 million. He goes back to United, and Chelsea look to reinvest that money in another player, bring in another left midfielder that can definitely help the side. But if he stays, Chelsea will have to pay that 25 million. So let me know down below, if you're a Chelsea fan, would you want Sancho to stay permanently? Do you have faith that he will come right eventually, or do you think he's a bit of a lost cause? Send him back to United, literally have them deal with the issue. Personally, I want Chelsea to take him. I don't want the issue with my club anymore, honestly, but that's just me. A player that I do think will be going, in fact, two players that I do think will be going, is João Felix and Nkunku. Now, Nkunku hasn't really had the best 2 seasons at Chelsea. The first one was riddled with injuries, and this one is riddled with inconsistencies and form on the pitch. He's played as a striker. A lot of people say he's not really a striker. He's played as a winger. A lot of people say he's not a winger. He's played in the number 10 position. He hasn't done as well because he doesn't press very high or aggressively or assertively. And I do think that because of all the rumors in January, he was linked with a move to Bayern, he was linked with a move to United, he was linked with a move away from Chelsea. I just see that happening. I see that the relationship might be a bit broken with him and the club, and I just think that he possibly might be out the door. Along with João Felix, who was brought in the summer, and another player who was brought in and then loaned out immediately because he wasn't getting game time, because Maresca refused to play him and Cole Palmer together, because I'm not sure if he thought that, or he stated that it just didn't work with the pressing, or it didn't work with the rotations in the team when they were playing together. I think they only really featured in 3 games, and it was all against the bottom feeder clubs in in the Premier League, so Southampton, Leicester, and so on. So Felix left Chelsea because he wasn't getting the game time, because he was literally behind the superstar of the team in Cole Palmer. And that makes a lot of sense. But will Chelsea sell him in the summer? I think that might be a thing. I think that might be a factor. Although I don't see them getting any of the 45 million back for him. They might get 30 million, which is still decent, but it's still a 15 million pound loss in 1 year. The loan spell to AC Milan didn't work. It hasn't worked. At least not yet, although there's what, 7 games left in the season. So he has 7 games to try and prove his worth and try and up his value and try and put himself in the shop window for maybe another club to go in and try and take him off Chelsea. The same can also be said for Chukwuemeka, who started his Chelsea career very well under Pochettino, but again, didn't really get the opportunity under Maresca, and Chelsea slapped on like a 40 million pound release clause on him, and that didn't work out. He didn't play. I don't even know if he played at all in the first half of the season. And then he was loaned out to Borussia Dortmund. But I do think that Chelsea again will be looking to sell him. Now, even though he's not a Chelsea youth prospect, because he's so young and he spent a decent amount of time already at Chelsea, he would still reflect in the positive sales department for, you know, a green area in the financial fair play, which is also why Chelsea are looking to try and push him out the door, because they can recoup a lot of money for him and then look to either reinvest that or just stay afloat in terms of FFP. The last of the wingers on the Chelsea books is Pedro Neto, Madueke, and of course Raheem Sterling. Now, I did discuss this in my Arsenal career mode, starting a realistic Arsenal career mode, but I think Sterling will be coming back to Chelsea, and I think that Chelsea will look to push him out the door, whether it's cancelling and paying off his contract or possibly selling him to a lower Premier League side for a cut price of maybe 5 or 10 million. But I don't think Sterling's got a future at either London club, and maybe, just maybe, Madueke's in the same boat. He's currently out injured, although he recently came back and he's been playing okay, but I don't think the Chelsea hierarchy are very impressed with Noni Madueke and his display on the pitch and his struggle or lack of form in certain moments. I mean, he hasn't ripped up the pitch like he was doing so in the Eredivisie, which is quite hard and unrealistic expectations to set for a young player like Noni Madueke. Although I do think he is a very serviceable rotational player, so I would probably look to keep him. I think Maresca likes him, so in terms of that, I think Madueke stays. Although if we factor in various players that are set to come in the door in the next year or next summer, that right midfield position is very, very, very grossly stacked. And that also means, will those players get minutes? Will Madueke get minutes? Will their £60 million signing Pedro Neto get minutes, although he can also play on the left-hand side? It's all these various factors that need to be weighed up when making the sales or acquiring these talents, which is something that Chelsea haven't really done. And then there's the strikers. There's currently 5 strikers on the Chelsea books. I'm not going to try and pronounce this kid's name, but there's Broja, Nicholas Jackson Fofana, and Gui. I think Broja does get sold or possibly loaned out. I recently watched a podcast with an Everton fan, and he was saying how he thinks Everton might want to loan him back for next season before making any financial decision or long-term financial decision on him, because this season he's largely struggled for fitness and form and hasn't really featured as much. So there might be a second-year loan back to Everton, or if Chelsea are not as patient with the potential deal, they could look to just sell him for a cut price fee of maybe 5 to 10 million, possibly 15. I know that they also slapped a 40 to 45 million pound fee on him, but with the injuries and the lack of form, it's so difficult to try and demand that sort of price. As for Nicholas Jackson, I don't see him going anywhere, but for Fofana, that's so weird. But for Datro Fofana, I do see him also leaving. Now, a few seasons ago where he started off at Chelsea and he wasn't doing too badly, and then he got loaned to Burnley and he also wasn't doing too badly then, that's their opportunity to sell the player when he's got a bit of value. At the moment, with injuries and the struggles for form, and even when he was out on loan last season in Germany, he also still struggled for form to try and get like his bearings under him and try and be the natural born striker that he should be. So he's also another player that I think would have to be sold for a cut price fee and just move on from him. So for the Chelsea Youth Academy, I have set up 3 different scouting networks all over the world. The first one being in England, looking for that good homegrown talent. And the key areas that I am looking at is centre-back, defensive midfielder, attacking midfielder, and striker. Now, the other place that you could also look into is South America. Anywhere really in South America, because recently Chelsea have been able to pluck fantastic talents from the continent. Now, I've started scouting in Brazil, as we do know that Chelsea have got an extensive Brazilian scouting network in place. And I'm looking for a defensive midfielder, a centre-back as well, and 2 wingers. players. But again, you can look to alternate between the various South American countries. Now, usually for the third slot, I tend to leave it blank, but due to the fact that Chelsea have got such a strong relationship with their sister club, Strasbourg in France, I've also started scouting for talent in that area of the world, looking for both fullback positions as well as an attacking midfielder and even a striker. And if you do find a mercurial talent in France, you should try and loan them to the French league just to try and help them develop, and if you can somehow find a way to get them to Strasbourg, that would be even better. And lastly is the potential transfers that you could expect if you're a Chelsea fan to walk through the door this summer. These are players that have been linked with the club, as well as a few players that I have added to the list that I just think would be great fits for Maresca's overall style of play. So we'll start off with the goalkeeper area, and I've got a few names on the list, one being Sevilla from Roma, another being Aaron Ramsdale. Now, a few Chelsea fans are screaming in the background, no. And I understand why, because I also don't rate Ramsdale, although I have seen him with a few links to Chelsea, which is kind of wild. There's also Verbruggen, although again, I hear Chelsea fans screeching, don't go back to Brighton. And again, I would agree with you because they are going to charge you crazy amounts of money. But again, he has also been linked with the move to Chelsea. I don't know how accurate those links are. And then there's Queven Kelleher from Liverpool, which I think would be amazing, a great fit, especially if Robert Sanchez leaves, if Petrovic gets sold. Looking at a player like Queven Kelleher from Liverpool, who's looking for first team minutes. He's tired of being on the bench, although the last 2 seasons he's played almost the same amounts of games as Alisson, because Alisson struggled for game time, and to be honest, Kelleher's done very well in those games that he has featured. So I think that this could be a great option for Chelsea to consider. I know that there's also the loose links to Mike Mignon, but I haven't incorporated him onto this list simply because of the age. Chelsea have very much indicated that they're looking for younger players to bring into the club. One, because of price and also the resale value, but also the fact that Mike Mignon has a lot of injury issues. And I just think that that's a player that Chelsea might not look at, although he is currently linked with the club. So I just want to put that out there. But Kelleher, I think, could be a fantastic addition to this team. So for the centre backs, I've put down Koundé, Huijsen, Guehi, and of course, Omar Soler. Now, people might be saying, Koundé, he's a right back. Yes, he is a right back. He's done very well as a right back. But before his move from Sevilla to Barcelona, he was played as a centre back, and he was also linked with the move to Chelsea before the move to Barcelona obviously materialized. Now, financially speaking, Chelsea can make this deal happen, and I think he would be the best possible option on this list. But this move would only happen if Barcelona are strapped for cash, which might actually happen because Barcelona are always strapped for cash, and they might be forced to sell one of their mercurial players in their team, and Koundé could be that player. And I just think having him as a right back that tucks inside and creates that back three structure, maybe having Cucurella playing more so in the midfield and adding more competition for a player like a Reece James, or maybe moving Reece James into that defensive midfielder role permanently, we might see something like that happen if a player like Koundé did come in. So he wouldn't be playing as a sole centre back, but he would possibly be playing as that third choice auxiliary type centre back option. And then there's Bournemouth's Dean Huijsen, who has been linked with various moves to Man United, Bayern, Chelsea, Liverpool, but also to Real Madrid. And of course, Real Madrid just got smacked up by Arsenal, so I think that they will be looking to replenish their defense this summer. Although he is a fantastic talent and he should be considered for this Chelsea side, he's got the perfect age profile as well as the perfect experience to come in and slot in immediately into that starting 11, maybe alongside a player like a Levi Colwill, successfully replacing Badashile and Chalobah and so on once they're sold. And then there's also Mark Guehi, the most realistic option on this list, who's been heavily linked with a move away from Crystal Palace, either to Newcastle or back to Chelsea. Of course, he's a former Chelsea prospect. They sold him to Crystal Palace and they wanted him in January. They were willing to pay money for him in January. And that's also why they cancelled the Chalobah loan, because Crystal Palace said, we're not selling him. But I think that's in the summer, because he's refusing to sign a contract extension. He would have 1 year left on his deal, I'm pretty sure. I think then Palace would be forced into selling their captain. And a club like Chelsea, they could be looking at bringing him back in, along with a player like Omar Soler for 20 to 25 million. Again, those are very loose reports, although he has done quite well since moving to Italy. So currently on this list, I've got 3 right midfielders or 3 wide players that could play on the left or the the right that could come in and possibly replace a player like a Jadon Sancho. There's Bakwa from Strasbourg, who's done very well, and apparently there's a 25 to 30 million pound clause that Chelsea could trigger to bring him over to England and have him deployed in their first team rather than Strasbourg's. But then there's also Quenda. What was it, like 50 to 60 million pounds paid in January, and you'll only be joining in 2026. So he's a player that you should definitely sign off the bat, as that's the most realistic thing to do. But then also looking to bring in a player like a Bakwa or possibly a Karim Adeyemi, a player that Borussia Dortmund were looking to sell in the January window. And I think in this upcoming summer, they might look to force him out the door. Whether it's for profits or they just can't keep him anymore, they might just be looking to sell him. That could be a deal that Chelsea could look to entangle themselves in, because he's pacey, he can play off the left or the right, he can even play up front at times, and he's got a load of pace on him to perfectly stretch the pitch and create the width and do all the things that an Enzo Maresca winger is supposed to be doing, something that Sancho has not really been doing. So he could be a fantastic option. Of course, all three of these players are very young, 23, 17 and 22. And then into the midfield, we've got Usego, who's also joining Chelsea in real life, so this is a signing that you should make in the summer window. Look to bring him in on a permanent deal. Both Quenda and Usego, I think that's how you pronounce his name, are brought in from Sporting CP. But there's also Jobe Bellingham. Now, keep in mind, Andre Santos, Ugochukwu, Enzo Fernandez, Caicedo, Cole Palmer, that's 5 players already. But adding in a Jobe Bellingham could be another smart bit of business. Of course, he would be quite expensive just because of the name Bellingham, but I would say 25, maybe 30 million at most for a player like this. Can play in that attacking midfielder role, can also be played deeper. Under the current Sunderland setup, he's played as a striker, he's played as an attacking midfielder, a 6 and 8. I think even for one game he has played out wide. So he is very durable, he is very flexible and fluid with his positioning. Another wide player that you should also consider is Jamie Gittins, who has been heavily linked with a move to Chelsea, and again, he does fit the age profile, he fits the correct style of winger that Maresca would want. He's got loads of pace, he can take on his man, he can also be very technical when it comes to linking up the play and playing those intricate passing moves that Maresca does want in the wide spaces. So again, he could be a great option, and because of the heavy links to Borussia Dortmund players, I do think that there's no smoke without fire. We might actually be seeing a move for a Gittins or an Adeyemi actually materialize in the summer window. Now quickly for Kendry Pires, he has been signed by Chelsea. I'm pretty sure the best move going forward is to sign him on a permanent deal, bring him in, and then maybe either loan him out or play him as the backup to Cole Palmer. Depends on how you view a player like a Joe Bellingham potentially coming in, if he does come in. But Kendry Pires would be the natural replacement, maybe getting rid of players like Nkunku and João Felix and Chukwuemeka and so on, and replacing them with Kendry Pires, an elite mercurial South American talent. That could also be a great move. Although he is 17, you don't really want to rely so much on a 17-year-old. Although, again, there's a few players in the current squad that can also be deployed as a number 10 if Cole Palmer is not fit and ready to play. And lastly is the striker position. I've got a few names on the shortlist that have been linked with a move to Chelsea in real life. Victor Osimhen, Liam Delap, Gyökeres, Benjamin Sesko, and Hugo Ekitike. Okay, I don't know how heavily he's been linked with a move to Chelsea, but Hugo Ekitike has been linked with various moves, and I always think with Chelsea they really are ready to snipe potential deals, because if they want the player, they like the player, they'll go take the player, and I kind of admire that as well. But any one of these players I think would be amazing. Whether it's Liam Delap as just a slightly cheaper option to bring off the bench to back up a player like Nicholas Jackson, that could be an element, that could be a feature, or you bring in a more well-established player like a Victor Osimhen or a Victor Gyökeres. Those two players I think bench a player like a Nicholas Jackson, which might cause a few issues, but nonetheless, they are definitely much better talents, much better strikers, and they could definitely elevate the Chelsea attack tenfold. In terms of a player like a Benjamin Sesko or a Hugo Ekitike, 21 and 22 respectively, I think that they would come in and maybe not exactly bench Jackson off the bat, but eventually they would. Sesko, he's done very well over the last 2 seasons. He's been linked with a move to Arsenal, but possibly Sesko could come in and make that number 9 shirt his own, make that starting position his own. But yes, those are a few options, and I mean, everything that I've said for those two players can also apply to a player like Liam Delap. Now, of course, Ipswich are going to go down, and he's got, I think it's like a 35 or 40 million release clause in his contract. If Ipswich go down and a club comes in for him, they need to pay that to get his services. And Liam Delap has also been linked with Liverpool, Man United, Chelsea, Arsenal, loosely linked with Arsenal, but more so Chelsea, United, and Liverpool. Maybe there might be a Spurs involved at some point in there. That could also be a really good option. He's also worked with Enzo Maresca before. There's also those relationships that you have to factor in. But I honestly think that any one of these strikers would be a brilliant bit of business players. Very expensive, but a brilliant bit of business nonetheless. And there you go, people. That is how I would start a realistic Chelsea career mode for FC25 with this Enzo Maresca and Chelsea team. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and if you don't mind smashing that like button down below, whilst also subscribing if you are new and you like the channel. And if you're not ready to make that sort of a commitment just yet, check out a few other videos, including the Chelsea tactics that I made at the beginning of FC25. Those tactics still very much apply, as well as also check out the YouTube shorts with the updated version of those tactics, because a few roles did change with the FC updates. So yes, I've also started a Brom Squad Gaming Patreon, so if you would be interested, and I do think that Chelsea fans this weekend would be very interested in the special ones 2004-2005 tactics. So if you are interested, the link for that will also be down below in the description, along with the BSG Discord server. That's for free. You're welcome to sign up and join in with the conversations and the various conversations that we have. But yes, I welcome all, and I'm done waffling. God damn it. I hope you guys do enjoy your potential realistic Chelsea career modes though after watching this video. So yes, anyways, have a smashing goddamn day, and I'm out of here. Peace.